I have been looking for a product like this for over a year now, and I finally have one to review. I'm the Simple Car Guy, and this is an OBDPROG Moto 100. This diagnostics tool was specially designed for European motorcycles, and I'm excited to check what it can do. Let's see what comes in the box and then hook it up to my BMW R9T and go over the functionality. So as you can see, it's a bigger box, so we're going to have a lot of stuff included in here. A little bit of a diagram of the device, what it's going to look like. On this side, not too much, not much here either, so let's just open the box and check it out. Alright, so we have some quality control stuff and what's included in the box, so that's good to know. We have an AC adapter, alright. We have an OBD2 cable. We have the device itself, we'll check that out in just a second. And we have a bunch of different adapters to work with your bike, which is great, because otherwise you have to buy each one and they're not cheap. Alright, so here's everything that it came with. We have the device itself. So you have your navigation buttons right here, the power button, escape and enter. We have the power button on the top, USB Type-C and a regular USB Type-A. And of course the plug for the OBD2 cable right here. Not that much more on the back here, it just says Moto 100, which is obviously this device. And there are two different versions. There is the European version, which includes BMW and Ducati and a few other bikes, as well as your common ones like Yamaha and Hondas and things like that. So this is where the micro SD card would go if you need more storage. But yeah, let's see what else is included. Obviously the OBD2 cable, and then to adopt this standard OBD2 cable to your motorcycle, you have your Honda 4, so that's what it's going to look like. You have your BMW, so that's the one I'm going to be using, that goes into your bike. And then of course you have Ducati, you have KTM, MO41, I think that's for Hondas, I'm not exactly sure. And we have one for Yamaha. So you have basically for all the bikes that they support, and you have your power adapter. All right, so I'm gonna turn it on, update it if there are any updates, and then we'll go down to the bike. All right, so now we are outside with my BMW R9T. This is a 2014 model, and now we're gonna hook up this diagnostics tool to the bike. So if you didn't know, this bike does actually have an OBD2 port. It's hidden just right here, so you're gonna pull that out, and then we're gonna unlock it. So we're just gonna remove this protective cap, put that to the side, grab your appropriate adapter that I have now plugged into my OBD2 cable, and now we're going to plug that into the bike, lock it, so it's now locked in place. Okay, put that to the side, and now just plug this end in to the diagnostics tool. And now let me pull the camera back and we'll check out all of the functions. Luckily, this device comes with a very long cable. As you can see, I can set about 5 to 6 feet away from the bike and just work on it, so that's great. But now let's take a look at the menu. Here at the top left, we have our diagnostics program, then we have the data management. So this is where all of the stuff from reports and things like that would go into here. You can also uninstall different models from the device if you're running out of space or something like that, or if you're just not using it. You also have your personal center, so this is going to be all the information. You have your serial number, what you registered the device to. You do have to register this device in order to use it. You also have your support, so you can go in here and then you can download the manual or frequently asked questions. You also have team viewer, so that's basically remote access if you need help. You also have settings, so you have your serial numbers, firmware versions, and things like that. You have your languages, so these are all the languages that are supported. I guess those are the only ones. Then you have the unit, so you have metric or English, so we'll switch that to English. You can do a network test to make sure your Wi-Fi is working correctly, and yes, this device does use Wi-Fi, which is awesome. You can just update your software with Wi-Fi. You don't have to plug it into anything. You can clear cache, and then you can also go to Android settings. This is built on Android. This is where you would go to Wi-Fi in order to connect to your Wi-Fi. You can also use Bluetooth, so you can connect a keyboard and mouse and things like that to make it a little bit easier to use if you like, and a few other Android options in here as well. And then you have your upgrade option, and this is going to be where you will be downloading the software. So for the first time, don't be scared when you open your device and there's not a lot of software there. That's just because you haven't downloaded yet. So you connect to the network and then you go in here and you're going to download it for all of the vehicles that you need, or all of them that this device supports. And to be clear, this is the European version. So this one will have, well, let's see what this will have. Go here, go to diagnostics program. You will have, you'll be able to work on BMWs, Ducatis, Hondas, KTMs, Triumph, and Yamaha motorcycles. If you need the American version, I'll put a link to that one as well. It's basically the same hardware, but it's going to be different adapters and different software. But since we are working on my BMW, I'm going to click BMW, and then I have downloaded 2 different versions of the software just to see how that works, but basically it's the same software. So I'm just going to select the latest one, and then it will communicate with the bike. Your bike should be in accessory mode, so I just put the key in and then turn the accessory mode on. All right, so it's communicating with the bike, and now we can auto-identify the vehicle, or if we like, we can select the vehicle itself. So you can just go in here and then select what vehicle it is, or you can just go to auto VIN and it will do it for you. As you can see, it found my VIN very quickly. You can just hit enter to confirm that yes, this is indeed the correct motorcycle. And now we have all the options that this device can do on this motorcycle. And to be very clear, of course, what you can do with the device depends on the actual vehicle. So, the more modern and the more feature-rich the vehicle is, the more options you can do on it. On this motorcycle, you're not going to see as many options just because it's very stripped, and that's kind of what I like about it. But yeah, if you have like a GS 1200 or something like that, you'll see a lot more options here. But we have engine, ABS, we have CIP special settings, chassis management system, meter, and service systems, things like that. We can go in here, click OK, and then we have our data flow for those systems. So we can see state live data, for example, and see if the service interval has expired, and you see yes or no. And of course, you can also record this data, and it will be saved into the data management. Going back, we can also see live data for that as well. If we select all of them and hit enter, you can see next service date, what it was supposed to be. As you can see, it was not reset on this vehicle. The next service, at what kilometers it should be, and how many kilometers this bike has done, which is about 3,500. And I'll go back to the top. We can go to engine and see some of the more, I guess, advanced options. So this is going to be the ECU that this bike has. So I'm going to hit enter. We can read fault codes if we had any. This one doesn't have any. And then you can also erase those codes if there's something to erase. And you can also see live data. This is very impressive that you can read live data off of all the modules on this bike, because I have tried it with my automotive scanners, and believe me, I have a lot of those, but none of them actually showed anything useful. So here we can just do select all, hit enter, and then as you can see, it quickly pulls up all of this data. So we have the power supply voltages, we have our oxygen sensor, we have ignition angle, we have engine speed. So if I start the bike, we'll see ignition angle, gear position. We're in neutral right now. You have your throttle position, all of this information, engine temperature, head 1 temp, very cool stuff. Ignition coil, injection time, all of this stuff, battery voltage. It's also available right here in the corner. You have your the cylinder position, engine oil temp, all of this stuff you can look up on this bike. So that's very, very cool. And of course, you can graph it as well. You can also go to state data, and this will just show you slightly different data for the engine. It's less, I guess, of performance items and more like ignition, like engine ignition and mobilizer and clutch switch and the fuel pump and all of these things that you can go in here and check. So very, very useful information in here. And then we also have special functions. So yeah, it's telling you that, be careful when you're adjusting things, make sure you know what you're doing. But yes, we're going to agree to that. Enter the password of 123, enter. And here we can reset a few things. So you have your reset self-adapting parameters. So when you ride the bike, it kind of gets used to how you rev the engine and things like that. You can reset those parameters in here. You can also calibrate the idle. So if it idles too low or too high, you can fix it with this. And of course, you can do exhaust gas throttle actuator adjustment. So it's going to be that sensor over there in the bottom, you can, adjust it, and you can turn it on and off and make sure it's working properly. So very cool functions in there that you will not see on most scanners. So I'm gonna exit out of engine and go to ABS, and we'll see what's available here. So we're gonna go inside, and we have similar thing. We have ECU information. You can also read the codes if you have any ABS codes. It looks like we have something in memory. So okay, we're gonna go in and erase those codes. Yes, we're gonna go ahead and erase them. Yep, erase. All right, and then we're gonna read them. And as you can see, the codes have now been erased. And we can, of course, see live data for this as well. So all of this data, we can see the wheel speed, battery voltage, ABS pump motor, very impressive stuff that you see in here. And you have the state live data as well. So like the switches, we can do select all, enter, and you can see live data for every single module on this bike, such as the front brake switch. And that allows you to troubleshoot it and do a full system diagnostics very easily, because you can, okay, let's see your rear light's not turning on. Well, you can go in here and then press the brake and see if it's actually the switch in your front brake or if it's a switch in your rear brake. So very useful for troubleshooting things like that. All right, going back, so I mean, that's a lot of functionality just right there. As you can see, you can just troubleshoot the bike a lot more in depth than you would normally. And we also have chassis management system. So the naming convention for these modules, I guess BMW has used, is a little bit strange, but yeah, same information. And you can also read the live data. So that would be all of the sensor voltages and alternator voltage. We also have state live data. So you have your brake light signal, outside temperature, rear LED light, fuel level sensor, high and low beams. Look at that. All of this information is available to you just right there. Look how much stuff there is on this bike that basically doesn't have any features. So that's very impressive to me that you can get all of this stuff on a bike that's supposedly have not that many electronics. We also have meter. So that's going to be the actual combi or the dashboard, or where all the gauges are. We can do the same thing. We can read the codes if there are any. There aren't, so that's good. And we can read the data flow for it. So we have the battery voltage, we have the service, when the next service is, and a couple of other items on there as well. But yeah, that's basically what this device is all about. It helps you troubleshoot these bikes like you would not be able to do before. And the cool thing is that unlike other tools like this, there is no limits on how many bikes you can use this on. So if you're on a dealership or something like that with bikes, you can just use this on basically anything you can imagine. It can do a full system scan, it can read and delete codes, live data obviously for every single module on the bike. There's Wi-Fi that allows you to easily update to the newer software when newer bikes come out, and the battery has been amazing on this. I've been using it for a couple hours, just like looking what it can do, and I believe it's 2600 milliamp hours, so it'll last you a whole day probably, which is nice. And it's charging while it's plugged into the bike. So as you can see, it's plugged in and it's charging the battery at the same time. And there's some special functions like resetting the servo lights and resetting the throttle adaptation, or adjusting idle and just resetting different adaptations. And of course, if your bike has TPMS, this one doesn't, you can reset that as well. Or the throttle position sensor, you can reset that also. The only negative that I can think of on this device is that this is an EU version, right? So for Harleys, Indians, and other American bikes, you need a different version. But yeah, that's about it on this scanner. I hope you guys like my overview of it. If you have any question, leave those down below and I'll be happy to answer them. If you'd like to purchase one, I will have links to the EU and the US version down in the description. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel for more automotive content. And if you'd like to see the top problems to expect on this bike, check out this video right here.